All right, let's get this going. Hello and welcome to Kandji Demo Day. This is our second demo day. Our first demo day covered the Kandji platform overall. If you missed that one and want to rewatch it, it will be available on our YouTube page. Today's demo day is primarily going to be focused on assignment maps. My name is Brian Van Peski, a Senior Enterprise Solutions Engineer here at Kandji. I'm joined by my cohorts, Maz Kahale and Joe Solomon, who will be acting as our moderators today. If any questions come up as we're going through the presentation, feel free to put those in the questions section of the chat. Joe and Maz will work to answer those, and we will have time at the end of the presentation to cover Q&A as well. So with that, I'm excited to dive into assignment maps and show you how they work and how you can utilize them in your Kandji environment. Let's go ahead and dive in. So before we dive in, why assignment maps? Kandji's assignment maps offer a completely new approach to scoping apps and configurations to your devices. It offers a fine-tuned level of control and flexibility, but without the associated chaos that often comes with complex scoping setups. It is one of the most clear and flexible approaches to managing device configuration. I speak with customers and prospective customers every day. Our customers are loving assignment maps and how intuitive and easy it is to orchestrate their Apple environments with them, and they avoid a lot of the pitfalls that come alongside other scoping mechanisms, such as maintaining the sprawl of groups over time, scoping the incorrect configuration or application to the incorrect group, or creating an overly complex environment that makes it challenging for new admins to understand previous scoping decisions. Instead of juggling complex static and dynamic groups, you just define conditions like device type, serial number, or user directory information, and Kandji does the rest. It's dynamic, scalable, and intuitive. No more group sprawl, just smart, automated targeting that adjusts as your fleet evolves. I think the easiest way to demonstrate assignment maps is to build one from scratch, so let's dive in and get building. Okay, so let's start in the blueprint section of the Kandji web app, and I'm going to create a new assignment map. Now keep in mind, assignment maps are just a new type of blueprint. In fact, as of today, it's the only type of blueprint. So if I use assignment map and blueprints interchangeably, that's why. Now, my company is going for CIS level 2 compliance this year. So I'm going to start with the CIS template, which will automatically generate many of the library items and settings that are required for CIS level 2 compliance. You can see that by creating a new blueprint from a template, it's automatically generated any CIS level 2 related library items, automatically configured those and added them to this blueprint. It has also added any CIS related parameters. Parameters inside of blueprints are essentially scripts that rather than you having to create and upload these custom scripts, we make them easy to toggle on. So I can filter by CIS. I can see that these are all selected. Keep in mind, you can modify all of this. So if some of these aren't relevant to your organization or your security standards, you can absolutely remove those. If you need to tweak any of the pre-configured library items, you can modify that as well. If I needed to, I don't know, change the restart on this for whatever reason, you could save that and tweak it to fit your needs. All right, awesome. We're off to a great start. We've basically got a CIS level 2 compliant blueprint, and it only took us 30 seconds. I want to continue building upon this. I know that all my devices, I want to make sure they're going through zero-touch enrollment. So I'm going to click Edit Assignments, and there's a couple different ways to search for library items. This is a list of all the library items that I've already configured. I can search for individual items, or I can use the filter here as well. For this particular example, I will use the filter and I'll look up all my library items related to enrollment. Perfect. I've got my ADE library item. I will drag and drop that. Then I also want to add Kandji Liftoff to provide a premium zero-touch onboarding experience for employees on their first day. Perfect. Now any devices that are in ABM will enroll using zero-touch in Kandji. It's that easy. Let's add some common applications and restrictions that I know I want across all devices in this blueprint. For this, I'm going to search for them. So let me clear the filter and let's start with applications. I know that I want to make sure that 1Password 8 is installed on all my devices. We're installing Google Chrome as well. Everyone in my company uses Zoom, so I want to make sure that that is configured and scoped to all devices. And then we also allow people to download Grammarly through self-service if they wish, if they need help writing those important company emails. Now, at this point, this is working very similar to what our existing customers know as classic blueprints today, but the power and flexibility of assignment maps really becomes unlocked when you add conditional logic. So I'm going to hover over this conditional logic on the right, add conditional logic, and bam. By adding conditional logic, assignment maps unlocks, and you can create much more complex scoping scenarios. You can see it's created a branching conditional block here that I can edit and modify. You can add additional blocks as you see fit. I personally like to create kind of logical stacks with my conditional blocks. So for this block, let's consider this my department-specific stack. This is where I'm going to scope any library items that are going to be specific to certain departments. So I'm going to edit the rules on this. And there's a couple different pieces of information that you can use for these rules. We have device criteria you can use if you want to scope by specific chip type or Mac family or specific tags, OS version, serial number. You can do all that. But through our directory integrations, whether the native integrations or our SCIM integration, we're pulling in all that IDP information and we can use that for scoping. As an admin, I love this because I don't need to recreate groups inside of Kandji. I already have people in the groups and departments in our IDP. I can use that source of truth to scope configurations inside of Kandji. So let's work by scoping things related to our marketing department. So we will add a rule for our marketing department, and we also have engineering department here at the company. Let's select engineering as well. Perfect. Now let's start dragging some of the apps and configurations that are going to only be relevant to the marketing department. I know that they're going to need Adobe. They have a custom wallpaper that they like on everyone's machine. And because marketing works with content all the time with words, they actually want to make sure that Grammarly is force installed on everyone that's part of the marketing department. Let's work on our engineering department. They have a couple apps that are going to be specific to them. Cisco AnyConnect. We're installing Homebrew via a script as well. We want to make sure that Python is installed. And they use Visual Studio Code as their editor because of its broad support for plugins and other integrations. Now, I can also branch off of these conditional nodes, these conditional blocks, and create nested logic. So let's say that there are a certain subset of users in the marketing department, designers, that need to have Figma installed on their machine. No problem. I can create a branch off of this marketing conditional block, pull my rules. In this case, we have a couple different designers that are part of the marketing department. So whether they're a chief designer, staff designer, I will just make sure that their job title contains designer. And they need Figma. I will make sure that they have everything they need. All right, so let's take a look at the engineering block. I know that engineers are always a picky bunch. Not all of them use Visual Studio Code. Some of them prefer a more boutique editor, something like Panic's Nova IDE as an example. I can add that over here, but you'll see that it isn't a library item that exists yet because I haven't created it. So I'm going to save this blueprint for now. And I'm going to show you how you can also add library items to an assignment map while you're generating new library items. So I'm going to head over to my library, add a new library item, and I know that Nova is part of Kandji's Auto Apps catalog. One of the things I love about Auto Apps that I want to mention real briefly, any PPPC profiles, configuration profiles that this app needs to run successfully, It's included in the app. That's not a separate thing you need to upload and deploy. That gets deployed alongside the app automatically. This app I just want to make available from self-service in case an engineer does choose to use it and download it as their IDE of choice. And I do want to make sure it's patched and up to date. 3 weeks is fine on that. Now, I mentioned you can add library items to an assignment map as you're building them. You can see this assign button right here. I'll pull up our blueprint that we're working off of. And I can easily drag it to the engineering department and hit done. Perfect. If I go back to my blueprint here, I can see that Nova is scoped to the engineering department and set for self-service. Now, let's say you don't want to make this available for everyone in engineering to download from self-service. Maybe you need to scope it to a specific individual. Not a problem. I can, again, branch off, create an additional nested node under the engineering department and say, hey, you know what? Actually just scope it to this person's specific serial number, or you can scope it to them by username or email. I know their device's serial number, so I will use that as my scoping criteria. Cool, and I've got that. I'm going to drag it over to that serial number, and now just for that user, that app will be available and visible to them inside of the Kandji self-service app. Things are looking really good here. Let's talk about our software update strategy. I do want to make sure that I'm enforcing software updates. As I mentioned, I personally like to create logical stacks, so I'm going to create a new kind of software update stack. If you have, I don't know, maybe specific departments receive different software update cadences, you can certainly scope to them here. I like to keep my software update kind of all in one single stack. So let me add a new conditional block here. And I'm going to add a couple rules. Let's say if the device is tagged as an early adopter, I want to make sure that they're being patched every week, right? These are the canaries in the mine shaft. If the update breaks anything for them, they'll be the first to know, they'll alert me, and I can make sure to put a pause on any updates that roll out to the rest of my company. I'm going to scope this just to early adopters. And then I will also say if they are currently on macOS 15, let's make sure that we are updating them on our normal 3-week patching cadence that I have at my company. Perfect. So let's look at our Managed OS library items. You can have multiple versions of Managed OS library items inside of Kandji. I have one here that is set to update the operating system 1 week after app releases an update. I want to scope that to my early adopters. For everyone else, they're going to get scoped 3 weeks after app releases that update. For anyone not on Sequoia, that's fine. I have designers that have plugins that are compatible with Sequoia yet. If anyone is on Sonoma or a version older than Sonoma, let's make sure they're updated to the latest patch version of Sonoma. All right, this is looking pretty good. I'm going to save this and let's assign a device to this blueprint. All right, let's see. I'm going to grab this device, edit the details, and we'll assign it to our blueprint. Awesome. Now, one of my favorite things about assignment maps is the ability to look up a device within a given blueprint. So let me look up that device we just assigned. I can immediately and intuitively understand what's happening on this device and why items are scoped to this device. This is super helpful if you just want to check your logic, make sure the conditional logic you've set here is working as you expect, or for troubleshooting. Let's say, for example, Melinda files a ticket with me and says, hey, everyone else in the early adopters group is getting updated. I haven't been updated yet. Why haven't I received the update? Everyone else got it because the week has passed. I can see here immediately, oh, she's not scoped to the early adopter group. I'll check the Google form that I had people opt in to early adopter status for, verify that she's there, and then I can modify her and add her to that group. So let me modify the device tag here. Device tags are essentially local groups inside of Kandji. Most people are leveraging IDP information for scoping, but if you need to create local groups inside of Kandji, you can use device tags for that. I'm going to add her to the early adopter group, hit save. And now I can verify that she is successfully in the early adopters group and is going to get patched 1 week after Apple releases that software update. Speaking of troubleshooting, let's say I need to manually exclude someone from a specific library item, either for testing or troubleshooting. There's a couple different ways to approach that. So one, I can simply exclude them from the entire conditional block. So if I edit this rule, and you could use serial number or user, a couple different ways to approach this. I'll just say, hey, make sure it's not this user. And it'll exclude them from scope, even if they are part of the marketing department. That's going to exclude the entire block. If you want to exclude an individual library item, I could come in here, add a manual device exclusion. And this way you can do one-off exclusions from individual library items if you need to. Now, there's a few other features of assignment maps that I want to point out because they are designed to intentionally help the admin avoid running into any rough edges when configuring things. Let's take an example. Let's say you are someone new comes onto the team, they develop a different passcode policy than the one that's already deployed, they come in and try to scope it to the devices. What happens in any other MDM if you have two password configuration profiles scoped to a device, right? It's typically the most restrictive. It's what takes precedence. Here we notify you that, hey, a passcode library item already exists. If you want to add this more restrictive one, you want to remove the existing one so you're not deploying two configuration profiles that configure passcode at the same time. One other area where assignment maps helps is, let's say, for example, I'm deleting this entire assignment node. If I delete it, it tells you and warns you that everything down chain from that node, any child nodes, will be deleted. So I don't have to delete this one and then become surprised when everything else below it is no longer scoped to my fleet. I'll cancel this for now. And finally, we will highlight if things are self-conflicting. So again, let me look up that device we looked up earlier. One of the things you might notice is technically there are two versions of Grammarly Desktop scoped to this device, right? There's this one at the parent level and this one's at the child level. Why is this one grayed out? One of the things I want to highlight here is that we assume the farther right you're getting in this assignment map, the more granular and intentional you are in your scoping. We recognize that this version of Grammarly, scoped specifically to the marketing department, is likely the one you want deployed and not this one at the parent level. In most other MDMs, if you deploy two slightly different versions of the same app, which is the one that ends up on the device? It's typically the last one to execute on that agent check-in. Here, we're taking the confusion out of it. We assume that because this is more granularly scoped, this is the one you want intentionally installed on that device. And we notify you that, hey, there's only one auto app library that can be assigned per device. We assume this is the one you want. All right, and there you have it. We have an assignment map with CIS level 2 configurations and restrictions. I've got all my enterprise apps scoped to the departments that need them. Accomplish that all in under 20 minutes. So we hope this short demo highlights the power, flexibility, and ease of use of assignment maps. We're going to move into Q&A here. Before we do, I do want to mention that we do have a survey. We'd love to hear more from you. I'm going to put it up on the screen here. Feel free to scan that. We can put a link in the chat as well. If you've been to a demo day before, or this is your first demo day, we'd love your feedback. What do you think of these? What would you like to see more of? Let us know in that survey. With that, let's go ahead and kick off Q&A if there are any questions. All righty, cool. I'll just kind of go through by upvotes here. Joe, are there any questions that stood out that you think are worth highlighting, or should I just go through the list here?
I think we go through the list.
Okay.
I'm skimming them from the bottom.
Yeah. Joe had asked, what is the early adopters group based on? Where's that group created? Yep. So that is a device tag. So if you are not using IDP groups that you're syncing into Kandji from your IDP, you can create local groups in Kandji. Those are leveraged using device tags. You can tag a device with any number of tags. Think of those as essentially as local Kandji groups. Is there a way to add additional criteria to the conditional logic, for example, scoping based on some attributes with Entra? So the integrations we have with IDP are pulling in a host of different information: first name, last name, username, short name, email, job title, any groups they're a part of. We're not pulling in specific like custom user attributes, but we are pulling in groups. So if you create a group based off of any of those attributes on the Entra side, you can then use those Entra groups for scoping inside of Kandji.
Cool. I have a question from Chaz Chamberlain.
Yeah.
Two questions. Is this one master blueprint with logic to split by department, or are we creating separate ones per department?
Totally up to you, right? So that's the assignment maps. Blueprints have plenty of flexibility. We do have people that want a blueprint per department. We have people that have a blueprint for every single department. We have people that refuse to have more than one blueprint. They have one blueprint for every single device in their fleet, and always somewhere in between as well. So ultimately, that is up to you. A lot of the customers that we speak with today are using just one blueprint and having their departments within that given assignment map. The way that I'll tell you how I would do it, right? All my laptops, I would have that as a single laptop blueprint, and then have my different scoping mechanisms to different departments. If I have Zoom rooms that are maybe a combination of like iPads and Mac minis, I'll have a separate blueprint for that because I don't want that lumped in with like my end user facing devices. And then maybe for like BYOD, I might have a separate blueprint for that. So totally up to you. You can have as many or as little blueprints as you wish.
And to your second question, Chaz, yes, the entire library catalog is available to you in assignment maps.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you can find that if you search for Kandji Auto Apps. We list them there. Can a tag be assigned to a machine before the device goes through auto enrollment? Not today. So currently we can only apply device tags to enrolled devices. Scrolling through here.
And if we don't get to your question today, we will follow up with answers.
Yeah. Jared, is there a matrix or chart of all the different items included in the blueprint starter templates? Yes, I don't think we have that published online that I can send a URL to. But if you are an existing customer or in trial, if you reach out to customer support or your CSM, they can provide you a list of everything that's included in those templates.
Keshav asks, in an assignment rule on designation based, let's suppose if a junior developer user required the same tool mostly used by a senior developer, can we do that without making any changes in the assignment mapping? Yes, Keshav. So you can, depending on how you scoped the tool, whether you used a tag or what logic you used, you can just add that person or that device to the same logic that the senior developer was in, and they will automatically fall within scope.
In the case of Liftoff, when do the IDP grouping tags take effect? That depends on when a user is assigned to the device, right? And there's a couple different ways to assign users to a device inside of Kandji. You can do it manually before enrollment. So if you go to the enrollment tab, look at your list of devices in ABM, you can look up that serial, assign it to the user. That enrollment flow is going to go through any assignment rules related to the IDP. If you, in your automated device enrollment library item, require them to authenticate during enrollment, that will also assign that user to the device. And again, it will flow through any related IDP related configurations.
Sam Irvin asks, we have a handful of classic blueprints. What's the best way to migrate test to assignment maps? I'll take a crack at this. And Brian, if you want to take a crack at this as well, because this is going to be important for everyone later. Build your assignment map to match the logic that you want, the end result you're looking for. You may end up combining multiple of your classic blueprints into one assignment map because of the logic that's built in. And then I would recommend testing. Either enroll a device that is not already in one of your classic blueprints, see the end result, confirm that everything's as expected. And then I would start with multiple waves of migration, just reassign devices from one blueprint to the other, confirm that everything's taking place as expected. And if everything's going smoothly, just reassign the rest.
Yeah, you covered it pretty well there, Joe. Worth calling out that we are going to be providing some additional resources specifically around helping you migrate devices from classic blueprints to assignment maps. If you have a classic blueprint today that isn't using any assignment rules in any of those library items, that's a pretty simple conversion. If you have more complex classic blueprints, that might take a little bit of extra work, but very easy to do. You can actually filter, if you were to create a new assignment map, you can filter library items by assignment to a previous blueprint. So I could pull up a fresh assignment map and say, hey, show me all library items that are scoped to my classic blueprint, drag all those to the new one, and I'm off to the races. Same with parameters, we can import those as well. So no worries, we're going to provide a lot more resources, and we're going to have additional discussions around how to migrate those classic configurations to assignment maps, and more details coming in the following weeks.
Yeah, hopefully that answers your question, Brent Matthews, about classic blueprints have become deprecated. I assume that when they are transitioned to assignment maps, they will be basic form. Secondly, none of the users will be affected when this happens, correct? Again, we'll be following up with instructions and what expected behavior will be when classic blueprints are deprecated.
Mauricio, can device tags be the result of a script run on a device? Yes, you can tag a device with via API. So if you wanted to run a script that set a specific criteria and injected that and tagged that device via API, you can certainly do that. There's some resources available, I believe, in our public GitHub repo that can assist with that. Let's see, I'm looking through here. At what interval does Kandji synchronize groups from Google Workspace? Joe, I don't remember the one off the top of my head. Do you know that one?
Sorry, what was it?
At what interval does Kandji sync groups from Google Workspace?
I believe it's every 4 hours.
Sounds correct. That sounds correct. Yeah, that sounds correct. I will say, generally speaking, if you are comfortable with it, I'd usually suggest setting up the skim integration rather than the native integration. One, because it's instant push from the IDP to Kandji, and a little more flexibility in terms of assigning users to that skim integration instead of importing your entire directory. So skim is usually what I recommend, but of course the direct device integrations or the direct integrations with the IDP are there as well, just for ease of use and setup.
Daniel Reese asks, is there a deadline to complete the migration? I'm not at this time, Daniel, but I don't think you should wait till the deadline is upon you to consider your move. I would start now.
You probably have multiple months, at least until the end of the year. So plenty of time, but as Joe said, don't wait on it. Next webinar, I would love to continue with Kandji. Yes, actually. I don't know if we have the URL for the new one. Keep tuned to our socials. We do provide. So let me pull up one sec.
Joe Burkle asks, I don't see a way to enable or disable an assignment map. I'm not sure I follow. Are you talking about toggling it on or off? I'm not sure I follow the question. If you mean somehow toggling off the entire assignment map, that would leave your devices in an unassigned state. So I'm not sure why you would want to have your assignment map turned off or disabled. You would just not put a device in the assignment map.
Lisa's asking about our next webinar. Yep, stay tuned to our socials. We don't have the registration page up for the next one yet because we don't have it scheduled, but we are hoping to do these monthly. So stay tuned, and we will make the announcement when that next one is ready, and you will be able to register. Happy to hear you're excited about joining the next one.
Matt Moon Slahy asks, did I understand correctly that it is better to use Skim versus like Intune integration? Skim gives you more flexibility, but if the built-in integration is going to satisfy your needs, you can just use that instead. It's 6 of one, half dozen of the other, based on your requirements.
Brent's asking about classic blueprint migration. Now that they've been deprecated, I assume that when they are transitioned to assignment maps, they will be basic form. Secondly, none of the users will be effective when this happens, right? That's correct. So if you have a classic blueprint with no assignment rules, that does get automatically converted to an assignment map, and that will retain all those same users as well. So no worries there.
Drew asks, so I'm a new user, it's best to ignore classic blueprints altogether? Yes, correct, Drew. It's best to, if you want to be future-proofed, just ignore them and carry on. Terrence Spies asks, can you explain the difference between parameters and library items? Can I alter parameters within the assignment map also? I'll take this one. We're a little over. I'll take this one as the last question. Parameters are toggle on. If you turn them off, they're not enforced. You can't modify them. Library items are going to be much more sophisticated, give you multiple options that you can add criteria, variables, timeframes, whereas just parameters are just going to be turned on and enforced immediately. Thank you, everyone. I'll pass it back to Brian.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you, everyone who was able to attend. Livestorm will send you this recording, but we will also post a higher resolution recording on YouTube as well for rewatch. Stay tuned for our next event. We do have one coming up next month, and we will announce that on the website and social media. And yeah, thank you so much for your attendance, and have a great rest of your weekend, great rest of your week, and a great weekend.
If we didn't answer your question, we will be following up with written answers to all these questions. Apologize if we didn't get to them today. Thank you.
Yes, good call, Joe. Yes, yeah. So we, for any questions we didn't get to, we'll be sure to follow up, and we'll have all those answers available.
Fill out the survey, please. Thank you.
Please fill out survey. Please, hey, hold on. Let's toss that up on the screen. One last second. You want to scan that QR code. We'd love to hear your feedback. We'd want to know if this is your first one or second one. Are you enjoying these? Do you want to see more of those? Are there different topics you want us to cover? Let us know in that survey, and we are excited to hear from you. Thanks so much, everyone. Take care.
Bye.